Welcome. In this lecture, we're going to go through something that's going to be very important in many things that we're going to do. So we're going to have to establish this definition. We'll talk about it a little bit. Okay, so we're going to start out by supposing that, and so we have these two integers. So we have that m and n are going to be integers. Okay, so these are going to be contained in the integers. And then here's our definition. And what it's going to say is that, so m is going to divide n. Okay, my colors are being consistent. Or, so this is one way to write it. Or, another way to write it, or to say it, is that m divides n. These are all just ways to say the same thing, okay? Or another way to say it is that m is a factor or divisor of n, or m is a factor or divisor. These are all just, I know this is so many words for the same thing, but people use all of these, so you need to kind of know that these are all things that one says. So the factor, divisor, okay, of n. So if and only if, so here's this is like, I'm going to use any of this terminology precisely when the following is true. Okay, so it's going to be that there exists a q in the integers so that n is going to equal this m times q. So I have that m from the, I swapped. Oh my goodness. I always seem to want to do these kinds of things. This is supposed to be red here. I must have at another time in my life made it the opposite color. So, oh my goodness. Swapping colors. That's okay. We can fix that. Okay. N is going to equal. Now I have it. Consistent. You believed in me and I did it. Okay. N is going to equal m times q. Okay, so this is the definition. This is the big important definition that you're going to see lots and lots and lots of. So just kind of box our big important definition. Okay, so what are a few things that you kind of need to focus on? So one of the things that, and remember that this means there exists, but one of the things that actually ends up confusing students, as you may guess, is that, okay, so the there exists in here. Okay. This is, again, I'm using my yellow to make it just slightly different. Okay, so this is a very important, right, a very important part of the definition. Because this is only going to work for a single q value, so, right? So we'll so only work for single integer q. It is not true this is my being very emphatic. It is not true, right, that n is going to equal m times q for every q in the integers. So it's very, very important that you distinguish, right, these little things. Students sometimes tell me, they're like, but I was so close. I was only off by a word, but being off by a word can completely change the meaning of what you're talking about, right? This is like this very, very important word in here. Okay, so some of the other things to kind of notice here. So note, what kind of definition is this? So note, this is a there exists definition, right? So, to prove it's satisfied, so one, the first thing is to prove it's satisfied, you must find in your scratch work and then state the cue and show that it works, right? And then, and show that it works. There we go. And what's the other part of the fact that it's a there exists definition, which is that you know that if M and N satisfy the definition, you know that the cue exists. And you can use it. You know it exists and you can use it. The integer q exists with, right, this n equals m times q. Okay. So this is, this is very useful things to know, is that, how do you use or show a particular kind of definition? So this is a there exists definition. And so, which means that if you know that this m and n satisfy, you have that q to work with. You have this way of writing n, this relationship between n and m, and you can work with that. It's going to be very useful, particularly in proofs where you're going to want to rewrite things so that you have something to work with. But if you want to show that it's satisfied, you need to actually find in your scratch work the q, right? This is an existence proof. You find in the scratch work your q, you show, and then in your proof, you state the q, and then you show it works, i.e. is an integer and satisfies this. Okay, so I hope that is helpful. This is going to be a very important definition for you. You'll become very well acquainted with it. And I will see you in the next lecture.